Everybody, I better get myself lined up properly here. Let's turn the sound effects down. It's pretty crazy today. It is absolutely crazy. I have had a ton of things going on and meeting after meeting, and boy, it is just, it's just been one of those days. Igor was supposed to join me today, but he got called away on an important meeting. I am doing double duty, so you guys get me 2 days in a row, which is totally cool. That's fine. Alicia's away, and she's not able to join in, which is her usual stream. The live stream for her Q&A usually happens today, right at this time, her and I. And it's been pretty rough and tumble all through the summer. So those of you might have attended yesterday, those who have who are here and are joining me, fantastic. Daniela says, excuse me, I'm going to bump this up here. Oh boy, it is such a disaster. Greetings, Mark and Igor. Thanks for always providing us good and accurate information. It's great to have you watching from Central Africa. We've got Josephine watching from Arkansas, US. Hey, that is so cool. Do you know what? I have a front bumper that I purchased from an off-road company in Arkansas just a couple weeks ago, and they had to fabricate it, and they're now getting ready to send it up. Why? Because my Toyota Tacoma that I bought last January, I hit a deer in the morning traveling to our church temple that is in Cardston, Alberta. I was driving there to go to an early morning session at the temple, and it was about 7:45 in the morning, and I came up over this, through this river bottom up to the top, and I ran right into this deer, and he destroyed the front of my truck. And it was like almost 7 months before I actually got my truck back. And so I said, never again. So I'm just waiting on this front bumper bar, and with this full bull bar that covers the lights and everything. And so Josephine, thank you to the fine companies in Arkansas that produce good, solid front grills for 4x4 trucks. Yes, I'm waiting for that to be delivered. So we are not going to waste much time here, you guys. Habib, good to see you over on LinkedIn. Sam says, Mike, so it's Mark, but that's okay. Any news on how to add spouse? And nope, not yet, Sam. Shahab says, can I move to Canada? Well, maybe. And one of the things I always tell everybody, and this is actually a really good segue, if you have any questions and you say, how do I move, or how do I do this? Like that relates specifically to an important decision in your life, as opposed to just general information, anything that's specific, I always ring that bell, and then let's see if this works here. And then I direct people to come right on over here and click on the link to speak to a lawyer, and then you can book a consult. You can click on the links below. We have in the description, and you can just book a consult. Shahab and I can give you direction and guidance. All right. Yeah, Jenny, looking forward to new updates. Jenny, I can tell you, if we look, it's been pretty quiet, hasn't it been? As far as immigration goes, the express entry rounds of invitations, as we go here, you can see there hasn't been anything. I actually was expecting there might be something yesterday, but they've really retracted. And if you look at the previous rounds of invitations, we're still, they did quite a few at the beginning of August, and then they had that one big draw of 4,300 for no program in August the 15th. But yeah, we're basically in a holding pattern here as our minister here, Minister Miller, decides what he's going to be doing with all this stuff going on. And let's face it, there was a lot of negative press in the news. The housing crisis, how much is attributed to how many immigrants and students are coming into Canada. And now the reality is Minister Miller has a lot on his plate. He's got a lot of things he has to sort out, don't you, Minister? So we'll wait to see what he decides and the direction the department goes, because they've got some issues, don't they? They definitely do. Okay. All right. Let's just jump in. Hetty says, hey, Mark and Igor. So Igor is unfortunately not here. He might be joining us a little bit later. We'll see. He says, what's the best way to prove foreign work experience for CEC? I have 3.5 years of Canadian work. Soon I will have 1 year of foreign work experience remote for work for an EU company. Okay, so Hetty, this is something that we're actually working through with another client right now to see to what extent we can continue to claim foreign work experience when you're working in Canada. Now, if you're working and you're not on you're not a full-time student, then sometimes you'll have more time, right? And you will have the ability to do that. But Hetty, we're definitely going to look into that, and we're going to probably have a special. We're going to do a special video on this topic as well. Okay, Hardy says, I got the H-1B open work permit stamp on my passport, but the date of expiration is only a year later due to my passport expiration. If I renew my passport, how can I get the other 2 years of H-1B? Hardy, you may not be able to do that. And this is something that we talked about at length when I was doing my H-1B open work permit course, and stuff that I talked about right in the midst of applying. Passports that were expiring early, IRCC has said that they likely will not extend them beyond that through the program. It was kind of like a one-time deal. So Hardy, when you come to Canada, and I recommend you book a consult and you start working, depending upon where you're at, depending upon the various programs and things like that, there may be strategies to extend your permit, but at this stage, it's going to be really limited. And that is one of the realities of the program. Okay. All right. Ankit, hello. Ankit says, hey, Mark, I'm from your H-1B open work permit masterclass. What can one do on the H-1B open work permit in Canada? Can we start our own business or have a side gig along with a regular job? You can do pretty much anything. The only restrictions are that, if you have not obtained an immigration medical, then there will be some restrictions to the areas in which you can work on your H-1B. In other words, healthcare, working with small children, things like that are often restricted until you've actually had an immigration medical done and you've passed it, which is usually not a problem for people. You just have to write the test, just attend and have the examination. But no, you can be self-employed. You can do a lot of different things. And I have so many consults with people right now talking about these issues and trying to strategize what the best options are. But when you come, there's lots of flexibility, but know that if you want to become a permanent resident of Canada, you really need Canadian work experience. And so I strongly discourage people from doing, any kind of self-employed businesses and things like that. You can always do those on the side as a side hustle, but always make sure that you can get a job, a full-time job in Canada working for a Canadian company in a tier 3 or higher skill level, basically skilled work, which all of you H-1Bers are already there. So that's what I would encourage, Ankit. Okay. Paul says, hey, Mark, thanks for the B2B streams and the hard work you put in. You're very welcome. My question is on how soon can one can change jobs within or roughly within the same knock. Okay. How soon one can change jobs. Okay. So Paul, if you're asking, okay, let's just see here. You got a little bit more here. As soon as PR application submission has been made post ITA. Also, how important are previous record of employment letters? Okay. So Paul, you've got a lot of questions in here and I'm not quite sure the context. So when you are changing jobs and you have an active file, an express entry application, and you have a job offer points that are being awarded for it, you are very restricted in what you can do in terms of changing. If the current employment you're on is giving you extra points for offers of employment. Paul, I recommend you book a consult for us to sort through this exactly. But as far as how soon you can change jobs, that's roughly within the same knock. In many cases, if you do not have a job offer or your current application, like you don't have a PNP or you don't have something else, you're just a generic, CEC applicant who's received an ITA and you're not getting points for arranged employment, then you can change your jobs. It's not an issue. Your work experience is locked in at the time you've got your ITA. But in some cases, individuals are relying upon future job offers and things like that are tied to your existing work to get extra bonus points, those extra 50 points or more. And in that case, you're far more restricted. Or you were eligible through a provincial nominee program, you received a nomination, and in that case, sometimes employment is more locked in. So that's why I need a little bit more information, Paul. And also how important are previous record of employment letters? If you're claiming work history, then they're important. If you're not claiming work history for those, then they're listed, that work history, if it's within the past 10 years, listed in your personal history, And you don't need to provide records, employment reference letters and things like that when you're not claiming points for it. But if you are, then be prepared to provide a reference letter, pay slips, pay stubs, and maybe even, notices of assessment in Canada or other tax filings in your home country. Okay. Okay, Hardy says, for people moving to Canada via land border, what fee or regulation should we have in mind when bringing out our car full of our stuff? Hardy, that's completely outside. That's a customs question. It's outside of the confines of this particular, this live stream today, but you can Google it. So Google entering Canada with stuff, what to do. When you're coming in as a temporary resident, you're often allowed to bring in your personal belongings, without too much hassle, because the expectation is you're going to be taking them back with you when you leave because you're a temporary resident. So, but yeah, as far as, bringing things in, a car full of stuff, it's usually not too big of an issue in the case of a foreign worker because you're not actually settling in Canada. You are just coming in as a temporary resident, but there's, the importation and things of cars and things. I would recommend that you just do a search and see what the CBSA border information has to say. You can always book a consult and we can sort it out directly, but it's kind of outside the scope of our immigration live here. Okay. Hey, Shireen, joining from Toronto. Welcome. Great to have you here. Hey, David. Can someone on a PNP non-express entry application do the medicals without an official request letter from IRCC? Best regards, Mark. So on a PNP non-express entry application, do the medicals without an official request letter? Well, I think you probably could. It just depends on the panel physician that you're going to see if they're willing to do that and issue an e-medical information sheet confirming it. So it is possible. Yes. It just depends on the panel physician. Okay, Sky. Hey, great to see you, Sky, from the Philippines. I think you attended the afternoon session with LJ and me yesterday. I think I remember seeing you there. Great to have you back here again. Okay, Shireen says, what will happen to those in the express entry pool with knock jobs, but the job is not one of the target occupations? Well, you're just in there for the no program specified draw. So the no program specified draws right here, that you can see if we go back to the previous rounds. So the last round was a no program specified draw. So it's not one of these category based. So basically it means that as long as you're tier 3 or higher, you're eligible for this draw, as long as your CRS points are high enough. So for people that are not eligible under one of these, then you're lumped into a no program specified draw, or potentially if you have a provincial nomination, then you could be going through the PNP as well. But ultimately, yes, the scores are considerably higher and it will be more competitive and more difficult for sure to get an ITA. And that's why I always encourage people, Shireen, to consider French language. It's the bomb right now. If you can study and learn French, you're going to have a huge distinct advantage. Neha says, any update on the process of applying? Nope. No updates yet, Neha. I will keep you posted on that one. This is all about dependents filing work permit applications for spouses who were not included with the original application when you filed your Canada H-1B open work permit application. Okay. All right. Sky says, applied through August for the fall 2023 via student direct stream. Still no update. Now I need to defer to the fall. I know this happens a lot. I will get a new LOA on November. What will happen to my current study permit? Do I need a new application? No, they will continue to process. And then at that stage, they will say, hey, looks like your program is coming to an end. What I would do, Sky, is if you have your acknowledgement of receipt, you've got your file number, then I'd submit a web form with your new updated admission for basically the January session. That's what I would do. Okay. Daniela says, can one person show Bitcoin's investment as proof of funds? No. The Bitcoins are, if they're sold and the amount is then deposited in the bank account, will that be a problem? No, you just need to show the source of it. So if you can show the source of it in your account, then that's fine, but you can't just show Bitcoins. Okay. Varun, good to see you over on LinkedIn. I went to India for 2 months on paid leaves to get married. Should I wait 2 more months to claim the Canadian work experience? I'll be honest, I would. Because ultimately a vacation, they've said a reasonable vacation, they won't, that's perfectly fine. And so maybe some of that might be okay, Vern, but if you can wait, I almost always will, will wait if you're physically out. Like, were you still working? You might have been paid, but were you still working? And because you're trying to claim Canadian work experience, that becomes an issue. So I wouldn't take a chance. And if you don't have an issue with waiting just a little bit, it just removes any uncertainty. Is it possible to maybe proceed forward earlier and say, well, some of it was vacation, and yes, it is, but I just wouldn't take the chance, Vern. I stay as far away from that cliff as I possibly can. Okay, Neil says, is it fine to not accompany a spouse in the express entry PR process if she is inside Canada? The only time you're ever going to say a spouse is non-accompanying is if they are not living in Canada with you, okay? Or they're not intending to come. If they're already in Canada, I would never, ever advise saying that they are non-accompanying unless there is some absolutely good reason and you can justify it wholly. And I have, lots of discussions with clients in situations where an accompanying spouse that's already on a work permit in Canada, they want to list them as non-accompanying because the points are higher that way. Well, you have to be very careful that you're not misrepresenting. I've seen allegations of misrep in that situation. Only where individuals are actually physically planning on returning back or have already gone back to their home country would I ever list them as non-accompanying. Mark, is there an email for redetermination of a TRV denial? You do reconsideration requests through the IRCC web form. So that's where you submit them. And there's no guarantee that they are going to agree to do that. But if you slide back here, I just go into here, IRCC web form. And I actually encourage you to book a consult to take a look at the grounds for the refusal. So this is the IRCC web form you can see here. And this is where you would submit your basically your request for reconsideration. So I usually do it right through here. Okay. All right. IRCC web form. Okay. Next on the list here, let's jump back to the main screen. Okay. T says, how will we receive our open work permit of H-1B stamped at the border, or do we need to send the passport? Okay. When you submit your application, if they've requested your passport, you're going to send that through the visa application center. They're going to imprint the visa in it if you need a visa in your passport. And then from there, the visa and the approval letter, you will, once they're returned back to you, you're going to take that passport with the visa in it and appear at the port of entry in Canada, either by land or flying into one of the designated ports of entry. And you're going to show them the letter and your passport, and they're going to issue your actual work permit at that stage. Now, here's a pro tip. Make sure you check it to ensure that there's no error or mistake in the work permit, because it's way harder to get it fixed after you've left. Okay. Okay, AJ says, I have 485 points on express entry and waiting for a draw. Is there any chance for me on direct? It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, right? They just did one 496 and, the scores are continuing up. So anything you can do, AJ, to try to bump it up just a little bit. It's like French. Like it's going to be tough, especially if you don't have an occupation in one of the areas in demand. Okay, Burin says, Canada visitor success ratio from Pakistan. Please tell me I have applied for a visit visa. There is, I don't know if you can pull it up. I don't know if you can pull it up. Let's just see here. Just looking to see if I can pull it up right while we're talking here. Let's see. Sometimes it's not so easy to dig down into this information, but Canada has something called an open government. And I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but you can actually go through and you can search study permit holders by country of citizenship and year in which permit became effective. I don't know if this is approval rates or let's just see. Just looking to see if I can pull it up. I'm not sure if I can. Let's see here. It's pulling up the actual Excel spreadsheet. So it looks to me like, Okay, so that's just the holders of it. Okay, I think I'll be spending too much time looking, but you can go through here, holders. I don't think that's the right one. Okay, anyways, so you can search your stuff. So go here to the Canada.ca, open government, and then from open government here, this site here, you can actually search for statistics. And Canada, as a part of the open government process, releases statistics on all types of applications, and so you can go here and you can actually take a look at this information in here. Yes. Okay. I don't know it off the top of my head as far as the success rates for visitor. Okay. All right. Okay. Paul says, thank you. I'm on an open work permit, fresh out of university here in Canada, 2 years. No LMI restrictions or the such, and all 2 years are locked in. Looking to change jobs once my app is submitted. Oh, yeah, I would be very careful. Okay, you say you have no LMIA restrictions, so no offer of employment. Paul, I don't want to give you direct advice on this one without getting the full picture. So, no LMI restrictions or the such, and all 2 years are locked in. Okay, well, ultimately, like I said, it's possible. It may be possible to switch and it won't have any impact, but without actually looking at things, I don't want you to rely on that. I'm always very, very careful with that. So, all right. Manpreet joining from Malaysia. Good to see you. Let's see here. Divine says, hey, Mark, is it necessary to show proof of funds if you're already in Canada and has a full-time job for non-EE PNP application? I am on postgrad work permit. If you qualify through the Canadian Experience class, then you do not need to provide settlement funds. You don't need to provide proof of funds. Okay, Jenny says, is there a legitimate way to reverse a declined ITA? The reason for the decline is lacking the sufficient Canadian experience, unfortunately. If you do not, as an individual, now I'm not sure if it's the work permit that was rejected. Usually the invitations, let's see, a declined ITA, lacking sufficient Canadian experience. Well, I'd have to understand what you meant by that, Jenny. A legitimate way to reverse a declined ITA. So I'm a little confused. Because when you decline an ITA, you chose not to proceed. But if you clicked on decline, you're pretty done. You can't then revive it, I guess is what I'm saying. So, yeah, Jenny, I don't if they gave you the ITA early because you didn't yet have the Canadian experience, Jenny, in some cases you can still continue forward with it. But you just have to wait until the full year of experience has been met or the full 2 years before you submit the EAPR. But if you've declined it, I don't think I've never seen any way of actually reversing that. Okay, let's see what's next. Just looking, you've got a bunch of different things here. Okay, let's see what Sky has got going on here. We've got a bunch of follow-up ones. Okay, so Sky says, should I wait for them to approve my visa application or send the web form ASAP? Send it right away. Yeah, send it right away. That's what I would do. All right. Okay, what is next? Who do we have here? I'm really zipping through these. I'm trying to get to as many people as possible, and so people don't have to wait a long time for an answer. Okay, we'll try to spread it out here. I've answered some people multiple questions, so I'm going to try to spread it out. Okay, so Faraz says, do I mention multiple part-time jobs I was doing in Canada while studying for my PR personal history? What about overlapping? Overlapping is totally fine, and yes, you'd list them all. All right, the writer here says, hey, Mark, finally made it to catch your live Q&A. Awesome. Can a business person from the US get a work permit through C11 or ICT work as CEO for 1 year to get extra points for Canadian work experience? Yes, it's possible. Those entrepreneur or the intercompany transfer work permits, those permits are employer specific. So once you work for a year for that company on that work permit, you have the ability to potentially claim that as offer of employment or job offer points and get those extra 50. Yes. Okay. I mean, a branch of their U.S. based company to create in Canada, not even a U.S. green card holder or citizen, but on business. Yeah. Like I don't see any issues with that as long as it's employer specific and they actually have a company. If the branch is a Canadian incorporated company and you're working for the branch in Canada, your payroll is all with that branch in Canada, then it may be possible to claim that. As always, these types of specific things, when you guys are asking me these unique situations, I recommend that you book a consult and we can dig into it deeper. Okay, Natalie says, while waiting for the postgrad approval, can I apply to renew my visa or should I wait to have the postgrad to do it? No, you can. Well, the thing is with your visa, it's going to be tied to the expiry of your current document. So if your current, say your study permit, Natalie, is expiring in a couple months and you apply to renew your visa, the one in your passport, and it gets processed before your postgrad does, then they're only going to issue it till the expiry of your current document, which may very well be exactly what it is right now. So in practical terms, based on what you've explained to me here, I would wait till you get the postgrad to then file so that you're getting the full visa for the full life of the postgrad work permit. Okay. Jorawer says, am I eligible for senior manager 00 tier, category 200 points, LMIA, as I have previous experience in India under retail wholesale trade manager? Which tiers are eligible? So yeah, so for 0, it's always the highest tier, right? So when you're looking at the extra points, and if we go to CRS criteria, let's open this up. Okay, let's shift the screen over here. Okay. And as we close this and we scroll down here, you will see that it says arranged employment, NOC tier 0, major group 00. You can have 200. So when it comes to the position, it's not so much like as we flip back to your question here, yes, your prior experience is something that plays a role in whether or not you're qualified to take up that tier 0 position. That plays a role, but ultimately it's the qualifications for that role, whatever it is in Canada under the NOC, what the employment requirements indicate that a person typically would have to work in that position. Now, a lot of the very high tier, they don't necessarily have specific educational requirements, but yeah, in your case, work experience always is important to show if you're going to take on a senior managerial role. And yeah, so it is possible. It's possible. We'll leave it at that. Okay, we'll go back and answer Hetty's, and then I think today we're going to end this just a little bit shorter today. We're going to keep this one a little bit shorter. So Hetty says, thank you for answering my question. So let's say I can claim the foreign work experience. Is a letter of reference enough? What are the chances I'd be asked for pay stubs or other documents? Absolutely get pay stubs. You want all of that, Hetty. And this is something I'm dealing with a client right now who was paid in cash, who didn't have pay stubs. And it's really, really messy. So absolutely you want, especially when you're claiming that work experience, you want to make sure that you've got as much possible supporting documentation as you can. All right. Baran says, is it true that Canada no longer refuses visas because of 179B and bank statements? No, that's false, 100% false. There was a period of time where they took a certain cohort of applications that they chose to just process so they could clear out the backlog. That ended like at the beginning of this past year. So that is false. Anyone who says it doesn't apply anymore is not being honest for new applications, because they are. Okay, Sudeep says, how can I file an EAPR since UK PCC police website was hacked and will not be online until December? All PPCs are processed offline on mail and are taking at least 50 days. You want to provide all the evidence in the world to show that you've made your best efforts, Sudeep, to get it, that the system is down, that you have no ability to get it, but that you've tried to make the request for paper or whatever it is. You just have to provide evidence that you've done your very best. And those instructions are across any application that you don't have. But understand, if you can't provide it, there's always the possibility that an officer says, well, that's not my problem. I'm not going to accept your application. So you have to be really, really careful. All right, Divine, you are very, very welcome. Okay. This one was a little bit shorter today, but we've got to the end of the question, so I'm going to wrap it up for today. But thanks so much for connecting in, joining in. We'll just have to see what happens with, with these rounds of invitations. And those of you who are wondering what the future holds, always remember that, you want to keep as many options open as possible that you may have. And let's see here, Sky. Am I missing another question from you, Sky? Did I skip past it? Okay. All right. I will answer this one last one, Sky. Okay. I think I already answered this one, right, Sky? I think that I recommend that you, inform them right away. Let's see. Otherwise, thank you. I appreciate that. I guess it's a super sticker. Hey, thank you. I appreciate that. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys. Okay. We'll hit Natalie's last question. You guys are still sneaking in a few more here. Okay. GCMS notes for PR application mentioned the dependent had a prior common law relationship, which is incorrect. Why do you think they included that note? Why would be relevant? Book a consult, Natalie. Natalia, this is something that if there's some misunderstanding or miscommunication, you absolutely need to get to the bottom of it. And so I recommend you book a consult, because those things, if they're listing that and you didn't disclose, or they're making assessments that someone was in a prior common law relationship, I don't know the impact of that, or why or how that could potentially affect without getting more information. All right. Okay, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much, guys, for attending today. This one's going to be a little bit shorter, but take care, and we will definitely see you guys next week. All right. See you later.